in those states you just mentioned, when they fight amongst themselves.
Yes.
And when people unleash
Yes.
mayhem on innocent people and people doing their jobs,
Mm-hmm.
for instance, the attack on Channel Television where people were beaten and their cameras destroyed and phones stolen. And, well, that is why when people say it looks like militants are back in business and real estate, we still have to ask that question, since you're also from
It is
Rivers
quite
State.
unfortunate. You and I know it's quite unfortunate that you think that when there are crises between political parties, that suggests that the militants have come back. That is not correct. If Channel Television, a victim of that, does not suggest in any way that militants have come back to Rivers State. That is not correct. In fact, I can even say clearly that we have, you can talk about doing business now in Rivers State and what it is to be. Well, one of the senior lawyers saw me there and said, what is really happening? Then when you're outside, it's like Port Harcourt is down. And you just came in, you can't see anything. People are moving about their normal businesses.
He hasn't seen the monorail or the rail landscaping of Port Harcourt.
You have been to Port Harcourt, you can now see the landscaping yourself. You've been to Port Harcourt, you can see, I'm sure that you must have used the monorail. I'm sure you must have done that.
What about the education sector, how he's building schools?
One thing I can tell you truth, yes, there are some good schools that he had built within the city, primary school, but it is not that in all the local governments. If you take a look in all the local governments, go and see the schools, you see that two different things. Yes, within the city, I agree to that.
You know, we have to concede how politicians speak. That, you know, usually they're always talking about work in progress, you know, sometimes too, when these things come from the federal level. People also say, have you been able to witness? That's not to say that there's no work going on in those particular areas.
No, I didn't say so. I have told you.
You just made allusion to whether
but I told you within the city.
Just a moment, Mr. Minister, just whether or not we use the monorail. Now, the fact that the monorail might not be in operation yet doesn't mean that there isn't work going on in the monorail. Do you concede that?
There's no work going on.
There's no work going on.
There's no work going on.
So the monorail never started?
No, can I pay for a ticket to go there yourself?
I'm just asking you.
No, but I'm confirming to you, it's not working. It will not work.
But they're building it at the moment.
Building what?
So they're not building it?
Building what? You just go and see yourself. It's not good. You are told the story. Go and see yourself. And you come back. And then you confirm what I've said.
But he also said about the airports. The federal government was supposed to have done the airports. They didn't do it. And in fact, he challenged the government. What have they done as a federal government program in Rivers State? Now
you see again, you begin to say, so many people have said, and the federal government, through the minister, has done quite a lot at the airports throughout the federation. Now the problem you have when you have challenges, somebody said, oh, you've not finished when you finish the other state. The other state said, oh, you've not finished when you finish that. Go to Port Harcourt. Yes, it may not have been fast as it's supposed to be, but that does not mean that no work is going on.
The same thing with the monorail.
No. Certainly, everybody knows. You even know yourself that it cannot be. It's not realizable. It's not.
Our cameras were there. We did catch
and you took picture of the pillars.
We did catch some. Well, that's something.
Oh, come on.
The pillars are something. Is that a part of the work?
Sorry, you see, I was in the government.
The railing,
I know how the monorail started.
But the pillars are there.
I can tell you, if the former Attorney General, who is now in the House of Reps, can tell you how that monorail started, how he became a victim of that monorail. You see, government is something that has to be done collectively. No one person knows it all.
Okay.
Right? But when you have a situation where one person knows it all, it's a problem.
Okay. Now, Mr. Minister, I think it would be grossly unfair that we have you here and we will not talk about education at all. First of all, we have to ask you, how are you finding your job as Minister of State for Education?
Very interesting.
Right now, I think you're Supervising Minister for Education.
Very interesting, but challenging.
What are the plans? I mean, there have been so many things happening in education. First of all, we saw the ASU strike, which was eventually resolved. We also saw the scandal that broke out with the National Common Entrance cut-off marks, and there was no word from the Ministry of Education as to how that happened.
And you were Minister of State for Education at the time. Now
that we have left politics, and let's talk about what the government have been able to do, and let's so that we can focus and know really what this government have been able to do. Now, take for example, we came in 2011. And basic education, you know, is within the purview of the state government. You know that very well. Basic education is not within the purview of federal government. It's within the purview of state government. And what the federal government is merely doing is intervening and complementing whatever roles that the state governments are supposed to play or are playing, you know. You know by UNESCO statistics that not less than 10.5 million Nigerian children are roaming about the streets. And that, of course, is worrisome. And the president felt that, look, we can't allow this to happen, even though that responsibility is within the states. The federal government should do something to give support to reduce that number. Because if we allow this number to continue, it's outrageous. It's not acceptable. And so what did he do? And in fact, out of that 10.5 million, 9 million are said to be children, imagine is in the north. And so he said, look, as Minister of Education, something has to be done. What do we do to see that we take away these children from us so that give them access to basic education?
So the schools are built, right?
Yes. And part of why I'm happy today that at least that has given me the opportunity to canvass. There's no state in the north that I've not been to, except Yobe State. I've been to all the states in the north. I thank God for that opportunity that I can see for myself and I can really talk what I saw, you know. And today, I can say, by the special grace of God, that we have a plan, we have given a target of building not less than 300 of the schools by 2015. But as I'm talking to you now, we have completed not less than 125 of those schools.
125?
Yes, as I'm talking to you now, last year, so either December, yes, November, December, thereabout, Mr. President through the Vice President in Bauchi did a symbolic commissioning of not less than 80 of those schools, and which we have handed over to the states because, first of all, the federal government is not going to run the schools. We had an agreement with the state government. We provide infrastructure, but you have to employ the teachers because it's your responsibility. You have to pay their salaries, it's your responsibility. But we are going to give you support by giving books, free books to these children and a uniform. And we also think part of what they're going to do is to make an incentive of free feeding so that will be an incentive for these children to leave the road and be in school. All right. So government has done that. And I can tell you, there's no traditional ruler in the north that we went to that did not applaud this feat. In fact, I can remember very well, the Lamido of Adamawa and the Emir of Zaza said, look, that this problem of Almajiri has been there for the past years, 20 years, 30 years, that nobody has been able to give attention to this problem. Now we are seeing the consequences. But that Mr. President made a promise that he was going to tackle this issue. And it has become a reality indeed that this promise has been fulfilled.
That's definitely one plus for you. But it doesn't seem to explain the cut of marks that we saw for the common end.
I am going to saying how, before you now make specific issues, I'm coming to NECO about cut of point. I'm coming to NECO. That's what they're talking about the federal government colleges.
Common entrance.
That is NECO. NECO prepares the common entrance. Yes. So I'm only trying to let you do before I come to the problem we find ourselves. So that we've been able to do. And that also we have done in terms of girl child education, particularly in the north. You know that because of some religious factors, some traditional issues, that sometimes you have these early marriages of the girls in the north. And so we try to see how we can improve and encourage girls to go to school. And part of what we've done is to make sure that we build more girls' school to encourage them to go to school. And there's no area in the north today, there's no state within that we have not. If we have not completed, construction is going on, or a word of contract has been made. That is through the federal government. And if you watch last week, on Thursday, I was in Anambra State. On Friday, I was in Akwa Ibom State to lay foundation for the vocational center for the Art of Boy children. That is those boys who are at the school.
We will come to that, because I also
Okay.
remember a clip of you going to the UK and you were saying something about how you intend to bring more vocational schools down to Nigeria.
Okay.
But quickly, tell us what happened with the common entrance.
Now, there was an issue of certain states. Now, you know that Unity College has to do with all the states. And then in Nigeria, sometimes you bring in this for a character. And when I came on board, you can't believe it, that it was 30% merit and 70% other factors. And I said, how can we allow this kind of system to operate? How can you allow 30% merit and 70% other factors? Are we encouraging people to work hard or what? So I said, no. And again, you have this factor that, look, some states, by virtue of their position, if the standard is high, some of the states will not have people in the various Unity colleges. So you see, the way the schools are structured in such a way that you allow everybody from all the states to have access to those schools. So you find out that there's a situation where, for example, if you are from Imo State, you find out that the cut-off point may be high than somebody from a Yobe State, just to make sure that people from Yobe State have access to the school. Wrong policy as far as I'm concerned. And so I said, no, we can't continue with that. We can't. What we are going to do, instead of 30% merit, we must have 70% merit. Then the other 30%, you can now consider other factor. So that was a real problem for us. But it is not start because we came. It has been there. And I said, we can't continue with this. So we have stopped it.
But you saw what happened last year. It was really, really, really bad. I mean, it wasn't even as low as 30%. Some people wanted to score as low as 2.
That is just what I told you here.
Yes.
It has to do with some states. Meanwhile, some states will score very high, yet will not get admission because of this so-called policy.
But that will not happen in the next result.
No, we'll start to change that, yes.
Okay.